Okay, everybody, what is going on? It's Bad Publicity Wednesdays. We're here. This is, it's a weird time right now for the world as we're getting into holidays. So these episodes could be a little more sporadic. As you can tell, we have a blank box to my side here. No Hollis. He's got some festive. He's got some festive stuff coming, but we have a special episode tonight, so we decided to bring in a special guest. Graham, how you doing?
Great. How are you guys, man?
Oh man, loving life.
Excited,
dude. Happy Thanksgiving, right? It's the month after Worlds, so you got to retire all the try-hard stuff, and you got to bring out the jank.
No doubt. Nice. So what we are doing, guys, is we're going to talk about, mostly to the new players out there. Hello, new players. We would like to, a long time ago, we did a couple episodes about what packs we feel new players should buy, and we're going to kind of revisit that. And that's, if you guys don't know Graham, we'll give him a moment to talk about himself, but he has put together a wonderful buying guide, and he kind of maintains that and keeps it up. But these are going to be our top three. Each one will have a top three. There may be overlap, so you might not get 9 different packs, but these are the packs that we feel that you should buy kind of post-rotation right now. So Graham, why don't you give us a little history of what you got going on? And you got some projects and some content creation happening, so give us the lowdown.
Dude. Alrighty, well, so thanks for the introduction. My name is Graham. I live up in Chicago, so I'm in Central Time, so it's a leisurely 10 p.m. right now, which is great. I first got into Netrunner, man, in 2014, and I was just playing casually for about a year and a half before I actually started attending events, and man, it just really picked up steam for me since then. And then earlier this past summer, I said, you know what? I love Netrunner. I love talking to people about Netrunner, and I love the Netrunner community. So I decided to kind of take a leap and start my own podcast, something I've never done before. And it's all about the community side of Netrunner. So I think there's a lot of content already in the Netrunner community for basically people who are really competitive, or people who are really into the game and maybe know a whole lot of the cards in the card pool. So I would try to differentiate myself, and I try to make content that is maybe a little bit more beginner friendly, or at the very least doesn't require you to know every card and every pack. So my podcast is called Shipment from Shiloh, because Shiloh is the Netrunner city that is Chicago to St. Louis, combined. I guess it's basically the state of Illinois or whatever. It's one of those mega cities. And then, we try to read off the cards that we're discussing. So if you don't know every card, you can still kind of get in on the discussion. And then I just try to showcase a lot of different ways that people enjoy the game. So sometimes it's what prep did you do for regionals? And what did you think the meta was going to be like? And sometimes it's what is this weird Jemison government takeover jank deck that you got going on? I think Netrunner is a really great game, and it can appeal to a lot of different people. So I just try to showcase that as much as I can. So I'm about 11 episodes in on my podcast right now. I've been really active in the online Cash Refresh community, so I've been streaming a bunch of those videos. StimHack has had an online league a couple times now, and so I've done a bit of that. And then I've been maintaining this buying guide. Yeah, you brought up a minute ago. Yeah. I first drafted that up in the spring of this year, and I've been giving it to the guys in my local meta, and they have just loved it. They've really appreciated the guidance because, as an LCG, Netrunner is really cool. You know what you're going to buy. You know what cards are in the pack. But if you bought your core set, or maybe you bought 2, and now you're okay, what's next? Well, here's 50 expansions. Well, you don't want to read through the cards that are in 50 expansions, man. So just giving people a place to start, I think, is really helpful. And when you're new at the game, you can read a card and be I don't really get why this is good, So having someone else say no, Clot is really effective against these kinds of strategies. And so that's why you should pick up the Valley or whatever. I think that's a really useful tool for new people too. So yeah, I'm trying to keep up with it. I update it about every cycle. Obviously, a lot of changes this fall with all the revised core and rotation and stuff. So yeah, man, it's a new era for Netrunner, and I think it's a great time to do a video about what to buy.
Exactly, man. We are on the same page here. So just for all that being said, it won't happen now. So those people that are jumping in and watching this on the live stream, it's going to be really hard. And I know you know, his stuff is recorded, so stay with us. But after this video, you know, check back later on. I'll throw some links up in the description, or we can link over to his Chilo audio cast, and I'll try and find the best link to put up. I think do you maintain it on Board Game Geek? Is where?
Yeah, because that was the easiest way to just upload a PDF. And I was like, a lot of people in Netrunner are gonna have Board Game Geek accounts. So
so I'll tuck that down in the description so you guys can find that stuff lickety split. But that'll be later. I do that in the post. We call that
That's right.
We call that the post, man. I know you're new to the podcasting world.
Wow,
that's the post edit, man.
Dude, that's some cool lingo there, man.
Alec, what's going on with you, man?
Hey, man, I'm just loving Netrunner. Jankmas is upon us, and nearly upon us, and it's been a fun time just scoring takeovers all day long. That's what I do these days, man. I just I get an Atlas out on the table, and then I'm like, cool, where's the couriers at? Let's do this. And then 6 points later, it's just the best. You play against these Leelas that set up 3 HQIs and 3 gang signs, and you're like, buddy, I'm only scoring 2 agendas. Atlas and the win. That's it. It's great. So I'm having a great time with Netrunner.
Nice.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome.
All right, so this is awesome time to talk about Netrunner as we get into the holiday season. We are going to go with a couple assumptions. We are assuming that you, A, have the extra cash to just kind of pick all this stuff up right now. And B, that you already have the core set. I don't even know if multiples are needed. Depends. I don't know. From my list, probably not. If you're going to try it out, I'll be giving some kind of packs that I feel are good, but they won't be the most top tier competitive. It's just what I have a good time with. But if you have 3 cores, that's probably your best start if you're going to go competitively. But you guys can talk about your list as you see fit. So intros, guys, if this is your first video here, welcome to the new players. Welcome to Bad Publicity. Feel free to jump around and check out all our other stuff. Like, subscribe, so you know when this stuff is coming out. We appreciate that. But so my list will be kind of comprised of, my play style is very I like the fun of the build. I just like deck building. I like the challenge. I like playing things that aren't the most popular, and usually I'm not playing a super tier 1 competitive deck. So Alec, do you want to talk about your play style? Which is probably the exact opposite of what I just said.
I wouldn't consider myself a very competitive person. I've always had a soft spot for Wayland in my heart, and obviously that comes with some competitive sacrifices in the name of fun. Sure. But you get awesome moments out of that faction, and the Wayland archetypes are numerous and exciting, and so I tend to bounce around that over time. And then my allegiances runner side really vary. I think I started very shapery. I moved very criminal. Now that criminal's kind of on the ropes and not very exciting, I'm playing a ton of Anarch. So I'm not very tied to one faction, but today I'll be talking about primarily picks that support Wayland and picks that support Anarchs, just because that's the kind of deck that I've been playing in the last couple of weeks, and it just suits my play style of whatever's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I really like playing cards that don't see a lot of play, but putting them into decks where you can actually like win games with them. So I like that puzzle of deck building, which is kind of what you were talking about, Chris. So in terms of picks that I have, I am going to be picking data packs that I think are going to complement with the core set really well. Or if you only have maybe a half dozen data packs, like I'm going to try to pick stuff that's going to give you a really well-rounded collection, because then you get to try a bunch of different stuff. There's a lot of cards out there that are really good for like a specific deck. I'm going to give an example, a card called Tech Trader, which whenever you use a trash can ability to trash one of your cards, you get a credit. Well, that's really good in another deck called Geist is the ID. And if you use a trash can ability, you draw a card. Synergy, right? They come in 2 different data packs. If you want to play Geist, you need to buy the Tech Trader data pack like right now. Like stop watching this video and go buy it, right? But
It's really good.
But otherwise, like you're not really ever going to use it. So the stock for a data pack like that maybe falls a lot. So that's kind of my mentality when I'm picking this stuff. And then in terms of just what I like to play, like I like to try everything, man. I started out really big into Criminal because I love these high impact events, but I was really good at losing as Criminal. So I got once I got tired of that, then I like tried to switch gears a little bit, and I don't know. I gotta say my favorite runner ID has got to be Adam, and I know that there's some Adam love from Bad Publicity here. So
this guy.
I mean, it turns out that when the directives are forcing you to do what you should be doing anyway, that sometimes you luck out and you win some games, right? So
I knew there was a reason you're here.
See, you just got those vibes, man. You just got those vibes,
man. He's already a winner.
All right, so that's awesome.
Nice.
So let's get into it. I'm gonna go first in case my thunder gets stolen. I feel I got competitive. So,
nice.
A long time ago, I started off my top 3 with a big box. I am going to again start off with a big box. I should say, guys, that we have restricted this list to 1 big box and then 2 regular packs, not including the World's decks. So my number 3 pack is Data and Destiny. Obviously,
really?
For anybody who watches, but I do have reasons behind that. And there is a master plan. So what I feel you're getting with Data and Destiny is if you've picked up the core set, you have a good chunk of runners and you have a good chunk of corporations in there. But what this is going to give you is 3 more unique IDs that you will be able to get nowhere else. And I just think that these IDs are just so different in how each one of them runs compared to any other ID that's out there. Now, keep in mind, these are not the most competitive. They all have their cult followings. These are like Bruce Campbell movies. Each one of them is just incredibly awesome, but they're never going to be the star power that we've seen right now. This cult following of Adam, and I mean, we saw Sonny do well at Worlds, so there's hope there, but we don't know what's coming for them. We know that they're still going to be supported, but I just really think that it's so cool to have these different styles of play, and from someone who just loves building decks and working the puzzles out. These are very challenging to play, and will give you endless hours of fun on top of that. I'm not going to get into each one of them because they're all so different, and basically you kind of need all of the cards that come with each one of those mini factions to flush it out because of the influence stuff. So I mean, all of the cards are good for each person. My favorite is Adam. Again, I love the directive play. I just think that's so very interesting. On the flip side of things, what you're getting from a corporation here is the exact opposite of what you got from the runner. You're getting a lot of good top tier cards for a top tier faction right now. Still, I mean, NBN has been still strong throughout the last couple years, the last couple packs, and you're getting a good flush of cards for this faction. Plus you're getting 3 more different NBN corporation identities. So this is going to be able to, if you're a fan of what NBN is going to bring to the table, you're flushing out more of an agenda suite, an ice suite for them, and some cool operations. I just think that this is a good starter pack for anyone who likes to tackle that deck building stuff, and on one side, and then you're at least going to be able to build yourself a strong corporation that will keep you afloat in tournament play. So Data and Destiny is my number 3. Do you guys have any comments on that, or is this a pick that we might see later on in your list?
I mean, I think it's a cool choice because, when I talked to Damon, I interviewed him in one of my episodes, and I said, I thought out of the original core set, I thought Jinteki might be the worst faction just in terms of like playability, like how easy it is to pick up what this faction is doing. And he disagreed, and he said, no, I think NBN is the worst. And that's because you have a couple different ways to tag in the core set, and that's really what NBN's all about as a faction, but you don't have a lot of great tools, you don't have a lot of great ice for them, and so when you pick up Data and Destiny, you get the opposite, right? Like, you are getting so many good pieces of ice. You get 3 really strong IDs. I love all 3 of those NBN IDs. I think they open up some interesting play styles, I think if you want to shore up the NBN side of your collection, like, absolutely Data and Destiny is the way to go.
I think it's also worth mentioning that you get 2 extremely standout neutral cards that are useful across the board in Global Food Initiative and Employee Strike. Those 2 cards, they're on the restricted list for a reason, right? They're so good and so ubiquitously useful that to have them in your collection with a core set environment, you all of a sudden have a really potent agenda, and all of a sudden you have a really dope current. And for those cards to show up, they'll make an impact in basically any game that they occur in, and now you've got them. So for that reason alone, I think Data and Destiny is a pretty solid pick, because they're pretty good cards.
Yeah.
Pretty good cards. Yep.
Yeah,
cool.
I mean, so that's all I have to say. And you were right about the variety of NBNs, right? You're even getting that with Sync, where it's got that cool like flip ability.
Yeah.
So you're getting a good variety in there, and you'll be able to extend the life of your core and take you places.
Yeah.
So that's my number 3, and thanks for helping solidify that in the fryer there, fellas. Who'd like to go next? Who's got their pick on the block?
Alec, you got something?
Sure, I'll take up to bat. I want to tell you guys about what I think was the most iconic and excellent pack of the most recent cycle, the Red Sand cycle, and to me that was undoubtedly Blood and Water. Blood and Water has some of my favorite cards of this cycle, and just for me really drove home some of the themes and power cards that we saw come out in the last couple of months. I mean, to top it off, Alice Merchant, this incredible ID that puts pressure on the corp in ways that they aren't anticipating. I still don't think people really respect this ID, and we've seen it perform on camera multiple times, and I love it because it's just funky and awesome. Some other standouts from this pack, I think pretty much all the runner cards here have like interesting niche uses. I don't know if any of the rest of them are necessarily tier 1, but they've all got cool archetypes. Like there was a short period of time where I was running an Au Snitch Daredevil Leela deck. Like, how awesome is that, right? That was just so memorable. You flip over to the Corp side, and apart from the NBN cards, which I should have prefaced earlier, I don't really care at all about NBN, so I'm going to ignore their cards. But for all the other Corps, let me tell you, this pack is a real winner. The NBN, the HB cards are baller, right? Warroad Tracker and Loki. Holy cow, those cards make a statement when they show up.
Seriously.
Jinteki, I don't know if there is a better card to come out of this last cycle for Jinteki than Obokata Protocol. That thing is a monster, and it just sets the pace for the whole game. You want Glacier Jinteki, you want PE Jinteki, whatever it is, put Obokata in there, you got it made. It's pretty incredible. Miraju, I also think, is a pretty unsung hero kind of card. Like, I've been seeing Miraju all over the place, and it's pretty phenomenal. It's just a real pain for the runner and stops a lot of shenanigans, particularly indexing, which is getting even more popular these days. And then just to round it off, I think Wayland gets some cool cards. They aren't necessarily the best cards of the cycle for Wayland, but they're some of the most iconic, particularly for me. I just love Standoff as a concept. It's just absurd fun, the like mini game within the game.
The card is so crazy.
And then the neutrals are solid too. Wempoa, of course, like some people are annoyed by it, but it presents valid recursion options. And then mass commercialization for a guy like me, who's a Wayland player who just wants to advance things. Mass commercialization does the job. So, all in all,
I'm so glad to see it come on your list because spoilers, I couldn't fit it on my list, but I wrestled with it basically just to see if I could get Obokata in there on like somewhere in my buyer's guide because I am playing heavy Jinteki right now. That's where I'm playing Adam and I'm playing Jinteki and Obokata was the reason that I ran and picked this pack up as soon as it was for sale. So it's so amazingly good.
I gotta add in here too, Alec, that there's 2 cards in here that really help with agenda flood, meaning when your hand is full of agendas, so not only is your hand really vulnerable, but you also don't have anything else that can help you like do things because they're not money cards, they're agendas. So you've got Miraju, which you can always put on HQ, and then it basically gives you a free, we're going to shuffle this little 5 for 3 back in the deck so you don't hit that. And then it also comes with Wampoa, which is a nice little way to, we're going to take this 5 for 3 and we're going to put it on the bottom of my deck. So, I also got to say, Alec, you didn't bring up the NBN stuff, but I think one of the hard parts of building Corp decks when your collection's really small is trying to find your agenda suite. And this pack has a 5 for 3 and a 4 for 2 for NBN. So, at the very least, you're not stuck maybe doing priority requisition or private security force if you pick this guy up. So
the other thing, speaking of agendas, that I think is worth pointing out is that when we did our core set run through, we pointed out that each faction in the core set got a 3 advancement 2-point agenda. And lo and behold, here, Shipment from Tenon has really set the pace, I think, for scoring out set agendas from hand. So less influence, cool things, forcing the runner to run. It's a cool card, and I think it's been useful for corporations to get those agendas out quickly. So
also Maui is super cool with Gabriel Santiago. The console that makes it cheaper for you to run an HQ, and then you get your little rebate from Gabe. So that's a good combo.
And for a criminal, like, there aren't a huge number of criminals that need a lot of MU, but if you need 2 MU, like, there's a solution for you. It's Maui. So
Magnum Opus criminal, watch out.
There you go. So that's my number 3.
Cool. Well, gosh, you guys. So a little bit behind the curtain here. I have 7 that I'm trying to narrow down to 3 right now.
Yeah. Well, for those who have not seen your list, it's extremely impressive when you guys get to take a look at it. You've got a breakdown by corporation, runner, and each faction for each of their preferences. So you've put a lot of thought into this, and I can respect the challenge now of us telling you to take this amount of complexity that you've made of breaking things down and simplifying it to just 3.
Sure. Well,
give us your best shot.
I will. So something that's going to help me narrow it down. And if you're new, you might not know that much about it, but in Netrunner, there's a thing called rotation. We just hit our first rotation this fall, and basically it means that old cards will eventually cycle out of tournament legality. So when you buy a pack, it usually has about a 4-year-ish tournament life. Obviously, you can use them around the kitchen table as much as you want. So that said, I'm going to focus on newer packs so that you feel like you get the most bang for your buck. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to start off with this is supposed to be my number 3, right?
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Okay. Well, I'm gonna steal the big box right now, and I'm gonna go with Terminal Directive.
Yes.
And Terminal Directive is basically a big box. It's technically called a campaign expansion. That means it costs $10 more, and then there's a 2-person campaign that you can play. It's supposed to emulate a legacy game experience, if you're familiar with Risk Legacy, like my choice of words there.
I just like the fact that you're like, so it's called a campaign expansion, which basically means it costs you $10 more.
And the box that you could fit a baby inside.
Yeah, so my God. That's what it means. That's what those words mean.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, a normal big box, a normal deluxe expansion has 1 runner and 1 corp. And this box has 2 runners and 2 corps. So one of the reasons why I like it is if you're building up a collection, you just get more diversity of faction, more diversity of options. There's a ton of cards in here. It's got Criminal and Shaper on the runner side with an ID for each. And then it's got HB and Wayland on the corp side. And, you know, not every card in this box is going to be like tournament level, but in terms of like playability, I really feel like the power level is about right for most of these cards. You know, sometimes you look at some of the older packs or deluxe boxes, and sometimes you pull out a card and you're like, Searchlight, why does this exist? This is never was something I want, you know. But for the most part, they really hit the money on this. So I really like the Shaper ID in Ayla BIOS. She lets you, at the start of the game, you look at the top couple cards of your deck, and then you get to store 4 of them and put them off to the side. And then you shuffle up your deck and you draw your hand and stuff. So then at any time during the game, you can spend a click, and instead of drawing a card off the top of your deck, you get to choose one of those 4 cards that you have set aside. So you get a little bit of this toolbox way to build a deck, and I really like that for Shaper in particular, because that's kind of what they're all about, right? Like you have these you can have lots of these one of tools, and if you are going against an asset deck, then you got your scrubber, and if you're going against a glacier deck, you can store your stim hack up there. You can do lots of really cool stuff. So I feel like a lot of these cards are just very generally useful. A secret card in here is deep data mining. Like that's probably the best multi-access card in the game right now. It's just really good. It's just really hard to like build around. You get to access cards based on your memory. So it would be really cool if you bought like the revised core set and you had a way to get more memory. Oh wait, you do, because Chaos Theory is the ID for the revised core set, right? So yeah, and then what if you had a program in here that let you host other programs and they didn't take up memory, so your deep data mining worked? Oh, you do? Degdeer, right? It's like they all work together.
Yeah.
Nice. So obviously I really like the Shaper selection there. Steve is a cool alt Gabe, where you're making runs on HQ, but you're getting back a card in like a strange recursion thing where your opponent gets to choose what card you get back. And it creates a really fun dynamic to play with, you know? And then you get some criminal programs that might be a little bit more like better suited for breaking things. Like Revised Core comes with Peacock, which breaks Enigma for 4, which is terrible. And then your options for breaking high strength sentries are like Fem. Like it costs Fem like 7 credits to break through an Ichi. But what is that? So at least you get some more options for breaking there out of criminal. And then on the corpse side, the HB identity I don't think has really been cracked yet. It's kind of like a recursion thing where if they click through like Biroids or if they lose a click during a run, you get a card back from your discard on top of your deck. That's okay. But Elective Upgrade is a hella good 5/3. And scoring out an Elective Upgrade in and of itself can be a turning point for a game. So again, you know, when you only have a core set, you don't necessarily have a lot of agendas. And so, you know, I think Elective Upgrade should be like the go-to HB identity or HB agenda outside of, you know, Project Vitruvius, which is a 3-for-2, and maybe Global Food if it's your restricted card. So, and then just get some good money cards for both sides of the table. And then actually, most importantly, in all my searching, I never found another purchase that gave you so many good Wayland cards all in one spot. Like you really have to pick and choose them if you're shopping from data packs. But this just gives you like 3 really good ice and a great defensive upgrade, and you get some cool flavor things from armored servers and illicit sales to illegal arms factory. So yeah, Hunter Seeker is a defining faction card, I'd say.
It's pretty good.
I use it all the time, not even in Scorpios, where you have to remove the card that you trash from the game with Hunter Seeker. But I use it all the time in basically any kind of rush deck, which Wayland is very good at. So it's just all around good. Just pick it up. Just go buy it.
Nice. Yeah. Cool. I dig it, man. Yeah, and there's some really solid economy cards in here as well. Like Maryland Campaign, IPO, put those in any corp deck, and you're just set. Like on top of the core set economy options, those are just icing on top of that economy cake. And you're golden.
Yeah, definitely.
Good.
All right, Chris, we're sending it back to you, man.
All right, guys. So I think that was a great pick. One thing that I think you can also mention too is obviously Terminal Directive, has that second that campaign to play through. So that is again stretching your dollar value out. Play through that. So my number 2, this is where things get a little hairy. I have my big box, and I have my top pick for pack. But this one here is kind of like a middle ground that kind of bridges the two, and this is why I did it in the order I did it. This is a safety pick, and this is 23 seconds. So this is the reason why I picked 23 seconds is because it synergizes partly with my other pick. So what you're getting here is basically solid corporation stuff. You're getting one of the top IDs in the game with the NBN controlling the message, and that's going to play off the other the one half of that box that I was just telling you about, Data and Destiny, that is all NBN for the corporation. So now you have the top ID, you have a very solid and fold out NBN pool of cards to kind of play with, and explore. And I think that's a great way to kind of start and get into the game. Having one side of your deck box really, really strong, and then the other side you can experiment and play with. So you're not, you can still be competitive and still feel like you're moving forward in in tournaments, rather than just kind of coming and I mean, if you love to play for fun, then obviously any pack is good. But it's sometimes new players can get a little down on themselves if they're constantly showing up to tournaments and both your runner and corporation deck aren't as strong, and you're kind of constantly just that bottom of the barrel. This is going to be able to give you a little bit of a fighting chance. You might have a strong right, and and kind of like a weak follow-up uppercut, but NBN controlling the message is going to set the bar very, very nicely for you. Also in this pack, you're also getting hard-hitting news.
I think it's actually the bigger deal of the two.
Yeah.
I think that's the defining card for NBN.
Really good.
That's something that is incredibly crazy. This is dropping 4 tags on a runner. Really, really insane card. And we've seen this, from last Worlds a couple years ago to this Worlds to competitive play all over. This is a card that's not going away. So you're pretty much future-proofing your deck or your collection, adding this in. Some other highlights here. As an added bonus, you're getting a new runner ID in this pack for Anarch. You're getting Null. He's a kind of a cool way to flush that stuff out if you wanted to experiment with something different other than Reyna in the core. You have Sandberg, which is a really kind of cool asset that we see some of these bigger HB builds happen. Then other than that, you're getting just some interesting runner cards. You're getting a current for Sunny, so you have some synergy again with my big box that I've picked. And you
see what you're doing.
And you have Deuce's Wild, which is a pretty cool neutral. And injection attack is okay. The rest of this, there's everything else is kind of there, but like I say, mostly the synergy was giving you hard-hitting news and controlling the message to really flush out your NBN suite. That's I felt that as much as, like I said, I'm really wish that I could piece something. I'm more of a Jinteki at the moment. I think that this. I didn't want to ignore the synergy that I could pull with that, and I think it'd be a good investment.
Yeah.
You said you're really big on Jinteki right now. Chrysalis is actually a pretty cool piece of ice.
Yeah, they're funky, but I think the cards in this pack for Jinteki are cool to play with. But they're just they're
I love
not
Georgia,
super,
man.
They're not super standout, but
they're solid. They're really cool.
Dude, I put Chrysalis all over the place. I put that in Scorpios. Like I'll put it in anything, man. Chrysalis is always good.
The other point I want to make,
it's an interesting for a different style, like expanding an expanding mechanic. All right, so you're seeing something cool, like something when accessed from R&D there. So it's really cool. The other one too is that I know you're going to lead into this. Since we're on Jinteki, I really like stock buyback in Jinteki. I love that. I play I used to play the PE style of all the 1-pointers as much as you can. So I'd kind of let them take all these things and just stock buyback and make all this money. But that was in the age of account siphon, so that was like my siphon recovery too, because it only cost me a credit to bounce back up to that. But it's stock buyback is an interesting card and enables a different style of play.
Yeah, it's cool.
Nice.
Alec, what were you going to say?
I was just going to point out that I think there's an interesting theme on the runner side here. If you're a newer player and you're finding yourself kind of nervous to run, not really sure when to face check, like what is a good face check, what's appropriate, because you don't really know all the ice in the game. You've got GPI Net Tap and Deuces Wild presenting really solid options for giving you information about ice. Particularly Deuces, I think, is the bigger deal here, because exposing that ice and making a run can be a huge amount of value and give you a huge amount of information and flexibility when figuring how to approach the corporation. So for that alone, I think it's fantastic.
I put Deuces on a lot of my decks just because it's got draw 2 on it, and it's like so hard to find cards that give you a little bit of draw sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like Hernando Cortez in Corset Reina. You know,
there you go.
Increase the res cost a little bit.
Nice, yeah.
And then of course Null works with the fixies that you get in the Corset too, right? The fixed strength breakers. So that's good, man. That's a good pack. Good pick.
Well done.
Thank you. All right, Alec, what you got for number 2?
All right. Well, this should not be any surprise at all. I've basically set it up from minute 1 of this cast. What have I been playing right now? Wayland and Anarch. So my number 2 choice can only be Order and Chaos.
Absolutely.
When this box came out, I was feeling the hurt on Wayland up until this point. I was like, where's their cool stuff? Like, come on, man, hit me with the cool things. I was riding the high of Blue Sun for a while, but I was like, I need that little extra shot in the arm. And this box did it for me. I was really happy to get some really cool IDs and some nice little tech pieces. I know that there is a fair amount of sort of so-so stuff in here, but I think if you're on a budget and you want to have a suite of cool synergistic cards for both Runner and Corp, I think this box is a solid pick if these factions appeal to you, which they do for me. I think basically all the IDs in this box are still relevant. They kind of fade in and out of competitive relativeness, but on the whole, I think they all offer really cool possibilities. Particularly, I want to highlight Titan and the fact that now Project Atlas is in the core set. That marriage is just unbelievably good. And you get that synergy, and it's just so golden, right?
Remember when we were all like so afraid for Atlas to cycle out? We're like, Titan's going to be unplayable. We'll never see that idea again.
Like, what's their card then? Because that is their card. And
that is their card.
It's still in the game. So that's fantastic. I think Gagarin really appeals to a lot of people and that kind of horizontal thing. And Argus is the same sort of thrill as PE, but you can also do Wayland things, which is also exciting.
Right.
Government Takeover, I mentioned it at the top. I think it's one of the most iconic Wayland cards, and just like this amazing risk reward of you have this game ending card in the deck and whoever finds it first basically always wins, which is just like the most Netrunner-y thing ever.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I want to highlight Orion as being cool, God Ice, and Wormhole as being one of the best Wayland cards, in my opinion. On the runner side, I think all 3 Anarch ADs are fantastic and offer you really cool options for really pressuring the corporation in different ways. I think cards like I've Had Worse and Day Job, the suite of Forked, Knife, and Spooned, plus Eater, it's so Anarch. It's so iconic. It's so fundamental now, I think, to their suite of options, that to like Anarch and not have these cards is a crime. And so I really give this box a look for the cool options that it presents all the Anarchs.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. You know, so the Wayland IDs, I mean, they kind of ebb and flow. You know, they're in, they're out, they're in, they're out, but it changes as the tides. But these Anarch IDs are just, you know, they've been around. Like you're seeing the power, like Valencia. you still saw her this world. You saw her like last world. Max is always, a fan favorite. She's not really going anywhere. What she does, and Edward Kim's starting to pick up some speed now.
He's got Link, and so many corporations these days are relying on operations that hammer is swinging a lot more often than it's not. It's pretty phenomenal.
Yeah. It's pretty fun as Edward Kim when maybe you've played one of these great cutlery cards and you kill the ice that's on R&D, so now it's naked, so you're like, all right, cool. First click, we're going to knifed. We see the top card. It's an operation. Trash it. Next card. It's got a trash cost. Trash it. Next card. Agenda. Steal it. It's like, I don't even need media, man. I'm Edward Kim. I'm just going to hammer through everything you got.
He's the man. So good. So I think it's super solid. The last card I want to highlight, because I think it is such a kind of helpful tech option if you're running against a lot of viruses. The CyberDex virus suite is so useful in so many contexts. It's that card that when you start to learn about metagame and what's really popular on the runner side and what you expect to see, if there's a significant amount of viruses that you expect, like, put one or two virus suites in and you're probably going to be better off than not.
And then there's 2 points that I'd like to make. That there's my Wayland weakness is also included in this. When I'm building a Wayland deck, the first card I always try and put in there is housekeeping.
So good. So awesome.
Every time.
It's a very fun card. And then for sentimental reasons, I'm still always trying to make the twins work. But
you gotta do it.
They're just there. And if you know me, you know why that's there. But yeah, great pick. Everything here is, I'm really, really glad that the cutlery suite was combined all together in here rather than spaced out. You just have some very, very cool stuff that you can do that is very anarchy. Again, one of my favorite art cards and playing cards on the runner side. I think Wanton Destruction was such a cool card when it came out.
Yeah.
So I mean, you are really opening up a lot of different stuff. You have very aggressive style of play here in Anarch, and you have the cool kind of like not so mainstreamy different styles of things if you just want to experiment with different manipulation of virus counters and all that other fun stuff. So yeah, great pick.
I'm gonna bring up Hivemind real quick. Hivemind's super weird, but it does work pretty well with Darwin, and that's in the revised core set, right? So you got a little something there. But I'm going to make a prediction, and they've advertised the Katara cycle coming out. It's going to be in Africa. It's going to be really neat. And they've advertised some focus on viruses, particularly for Anarch. So I'm going to make a prediction. You heard it here first on Bad Publicity, that there's going to be a card that synergizes really well with Hivemind coming out in the Katara cycle. So just get it now. Just hedge your bets and get it now. You'll love it.
Nice. Cool. Sounds good.
Oh, now it's back to me. Oh gosh, now I gotta pick one of these. All right.
The number two.
Two. I said I was gonna focus on newer stuff so that I don't have to run into rotation issues. So my number 2 pick is going to be Earth's Scion.
Okay.
So cool. Earth's Scion came out, in like July, I'm going to say? Somewhere around there. And here's why I like it. Particularly if you are just getting into the game with a revised core set, or you've got a core set but you want to maybe start going to meetups and stuff. The first card in the pack is Berserker, which is sort of a fixed strength Anarch barrier breaker, and it's not all that strong, but it's maybe easier to use than Morningstar, which is what you're stuck with, Or if you only have the original core set, but you want to go to meetups and you want your decks to be legal, Corroder is not legal anymore, and you need a Fractor in that case. So at least Berserker gets you in the door there. Maybe you pick up 23 seconds and you use it with Null, and then now you got a little something going on. This pack also has Rubicon Switch, which is the reusable criminal D-Res card. As in it's hardware, and then you just keep it on the table and you can hit the Rubicon button and it flips over their ice. And that's really Criminal's probably a main way to deal with problematic ice, aside from like bypassing it with Fem. So I think that's a really useful tool to have. And then you've got some really fun shaper cards in Adjusted Matrix and Dedicated Processor, which you attach to your icebreakers so they can break stuff differently or more easily than you could have otherwise. Dedicated Processor also gives you a boost strength ability, so maybe you use it with something like a Berserker or one of your fixed strength breakers, and that way they can actually they can pump. So, and then Versificator is a crazy good decoder, so you love that. Something that bothered me about the core sets was that the core set ID is personal evolution for Jinteki, which that in and of itself doesn't bother me, but like Chris, you were talking about earlier, you can put in a bunch of these 1-point agendas to kind of maximize how much net damage your ID does. But if you don't have a full card pool, you don't have enough agendas to really use that to its fullest potential. So I always like recommending packs for new players that have Jinteki IDs, particularly ones that you can use in like a Jinteki Glacier, like a more traditional style. And so Ag Infusion is probably one of the best Jinteki Glacier IDs that exists. Yeah. So, and then you also get Ben Musashi, which is kind of like a core set, strongbox for red herrings, but for Jinteki. So,
yeah, great include for the Ag Infusion. I mean, and we're already seeing how strong that can be with good showings at the last Worlds.
You get a couple good ice in Authenticator, which is a tagging ice that masquerades as an end the run ice for NBN. And then you've got Battlement, which is, I mean, when it came out, I'm pretty sure all the veterans kind of complained about it because it's just a barrier that has 2 end the run subs on it. I think there's a couple niche cases where it's probably better to have than like a wall of static, but you know, if your card pool is limited and you need more barriers, I think Battlement's there for you. Because otherwise you're just using it with Armored Servers is that agenda I brought up where you incur extra costs for breaking subs, so this has more subs. But more importantly, you've got Audacity for Wayland, which Alec, back me up. This is some good stuff here.
Dude, the Titan deck that I'm running right now is 2x Audacity, 2x Red Planet Couriers, because that stuff is so phenomenal when you're scoring Atlases out of hand, when you're using Biotic Labor plus Red Planet Couriers, you score anything you want. They're so cool cards. I just love them. They're so Wayland. Audacity in the like, I can toss out my hand and still win. That's fine. Or the Red Planet Couriers of like, I've just got this combo to take over the world. Boom. It's my whole turn. Now I'm going to win. It's fantastic. Great, awesome. Great Wayland cards.
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah. And then here's a little sneaky get that I love. I really like the Ice Owl. And we have a joke in my meta because there was like 2 weeks when I way overused Owl and I put it in like way too many decks. And so now everyone's like, Owl, ban that. It's way too powerful. But it's nice. A gear check ice. Basically, you can throw down an ice wall and you throw down your Atlas and you're like, oh, if they have a barrier breaker, they can get in. But if you put Owl in front of that, they have to have the sentry breaker, or else you bounce their barrier breaker back on top of their deck. They can't get in that turn, and then you score out. So really good gear check ice, particularly if you don't have a lot of other options. So just everyone wins with the state pack. You know what I'm saying?
Cool. Totally. Yeah, the other thing I got to say, which you briefly mentioned that I think is so fantastic, particularly for Shapers, is I think these are some of the most shapery cards to come out in recent memory. the mod subtype on them, and the fact that you're like actually tinkering with your programs on the table is so thematic and awesome that if you love that aspect of being a shaper, these cards are perfect for that.
Yes. Here's something. Bamboo Dome is a strange upgrade that's in this box. I've never used it. I don't know if you guys have ever used it. I have not. Nah. What is your opinion of this card? To me, it seems like a kind of a neat card filtering thing if you don't have other better ways to kind of do that. I don't know.
I haven't really tried it much. Maybe in PE, if you've got, tricks, traps, and agendas, you put something tempting on top of R&D, or you make it look like you put something tempting there. I don't know. I think that plays to a very niche but very cool play style of where's the ball in the cups kind of thing. But
sure.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I think that when I look at something like that, I always think it's cool, but that I can never get it to pull off. I mean, I never used precog like in old core set. So to me, like spending a click to look at some cards, I'm going to choose one, return some others in a fancy order. Like this mechanic has just never really worked in Jinteki, this whole flushing stuff around and see what's
I guess the dream is like, right, you reveal 3 cards and one of them's a snare, and then you just like draw the one that's like 3 down, and then you just keep the snare on top the whole time. But like, I don't know, as Corp, you don't really want to draw that much anyway. So like, I don't know.
Yeah, right. and I feel like I think it would be a lot cooler if it was somehow triggered off turn. So it's like if they're running my HQ, say I'm like, oh, hold on a second, I'm gonna use this paid ability or something, look at 3 cards, I'm gonna pull a card from there, put it in my hand, is it that snare? Here you go. And then, then force them to jack out. But because I'm doing it on my turn, I'm kind of like, if you were to do it and I was playing you, I'm like, okay, you just drew a card, all right.
My only thing that could possibly convince me that this card is worth picking up for is if the player happened to pick up the data pack Upstock and found the card Mutate and went, how could I make a Mutate deck? Oh, wait. Mutate.
Yeah. Yeah,
that's
there you
the
go.
only case I could see for.
Dude, guys, I want to live the dream of evolving my Pokemon from Quandary to mutate it into an Enigma and then mutate it into a Conundrum. Like, that is something that's on my bucket list. I don't know when I'm going to do it. Quandary's rotated, but...
Well, Bamboo Drum. That's the way you make
it. There you go. There you go.
Solid. All right, so we're coming to my number 1 pick here, fellas. So to recap, I had your Data and Destiny Big Box for... obviously awesome reasons like Adam and the fun that you get with Apocalypse. I have 23 seconds for corporation synergy with that box and some other cool little flushing out cards. My number 1 pick that I feel like you should get, and I think I'm going to steal the thunder right from Alec, is Escalation. Or I might steal the thunder from everybody, maybe.
Not for me, but that's a good pick.
That's totally what I was saving for the end. Go ahead.
All right, nice. So this is your number 1 as well?
Well, it was gonna be.
You know what? No, it can still be. I mean, we can still talk about the whole thing.
You can find
together.
Another one.
We got to give people the value for watching. They got to get some different content. You go ahead. All
right. So the reason that you're picking up Escalation is basically just because Find the Truth is there.
What?
Enough said. Close the case. Alec, what do you got for
full plan is revealed. It all makes sense now. It's building the perfect Atom deck.
Oh my god.
No, okay. Nice. So what you're getting here is obviously you're getting Find the Truth, which officially flushes out everything Adam needs to get that cool final touch of deck building where you're now choosing directives that are starting in play. So awesome. You are getting a very cool Anarch style runner in Omar. You're getting a decoder, which is your code gate breaker. That is pretty much going to be what you're going to see going forward in Black Orchestra. I mean, Obelisk is cool, but I mean, it's not going to be the reason that you're picking this one up.
It gives you an option at console. Yeah. If your only other option is the one that gives you brain damage for traces.
Yeah. On the flip side of things, the corporation side is basically what you're picking this up for. Flushing out, this is where you're going to get the Jinteki love from me at the top with Potential Unleashed. You saw what it can do from a high level at Worlds. You're getting a amazing code gate in DNA Tracker, and you're getting a unsung Project Kusanagi.
So good in PE.
Yeah, right.
So good.
And, flushing out that Jinteki 1000 cut style. So to me, every one of these Jinteki ones is really cool. But the fun on the corporation side doesn't stop there. You're getting really neat and powerful stuff in Fairchild 3.0.
And might be the best dice in the game.
And
for value.
It's phenomenal.
And you're getting a very unique operation in Arc Lockdown to be able to do some detrimental stuff to the corporation.
Useful.
But then you get into the awesomeness of this Wayland side of things here. You're getting Boom. You're getting Boom. I mean, Scorch got rotated from the core set, so I've already pulling off some synergy with stuff. In my last pack, again, I didn't want to talk about it then, but the tie that binds, the 23 seconds pulling hard-hitting news together. Now you have the Boom.
There you go.
It's just very, very iconic card that you don't want to miss out on. You obviously want to be able to have Boom, because if either way, if you want to play damage, or if damage becomes the way to go again, meet damage, heavy stuff, you don't want to be the guy that does not have Boom. Super cool.
It's really hard to build a sync attack and not want to include Boom, like even just as a one of, because I mean, you're doing what you want to do anyway with sync, where you're just tagging the bazookas out of someone, and then you just have a card in your deck that basically says like, yep, and I win. So hard to pass up.
Yeah. So and also on the other sides here, you're getting two kind of cool current options with door to door. But to me, the big one that's bigger than that is the scarcity of resources. That's going to do work for you.
Arguably the card that won Worlds this past year.
Some would say that.
Some would say.
And then you also have service outage in this pack as a current, which I was gonna say like, oh yeah, that's a cool econ denial current, but the better econ denial current is also in this pack, which is scarcity. So
hard to beat. Yeah.
And door to door is really good with making news, which is the core set in BNID. So if you really like to punish your roommate or whoever you play this game with.
And if you've already picked up Data and Destiny, like you suggested, New Angeles Soul loves the flexibility of these currents. So that's a nice synergy as well.
Indeed. So that's my number one.
Cool, man.
So we have Data and Destiny, 23 seconds, and escalation along with your core set. Again, my picks are giving you a fun runner side and with what you can pick up in the mini factions, and then a very solid and competitive base for you to be able to explore the corporation side with.
Specifically NBN. Like, you can buy just those things that you mentioned, Chris, and have 3 different competitive NBN decks, just with those purchases.
Yeah, and I mean, you can start to explore potential unleashed with different stuff. You're not going to be able to maybe not get it to where it needs to be, but you're going to have some fun with Jinteki.
Right. So the potato thing, I got to interrupt and ask about it, because maybe you guys are more plugged in than me, but like, is it just that someone released a deck that was called Potatoes Unleashed, and so now we just call this ID Potatoes? Like, is that just...
Yeah, it was an alt art card from Worlds 2 years ago that came over with the UK guys.
The Brits, the British invasion with their potatoes.
Yeah, man.
They know how to meme.
I don't know how it started over there. Maybe someone in chat will be able to flick it out, but it was it came over. It was brought over.
I had like 3 different people ask me about it Worlds Weekend, and I was like, I don't know, I don't get it. I think it's just that potential and potato are kind of similar. Like, that's all I know. That is all I know.
Potato.
Nice.
All right,
Alec.
Setting drum rolls for your number 1.
A lot of pressure, but here it goes. Let me tell you guys. Number 3 and number 2, my picks there: Blood and Water and Order and Chaos. These speak more to my current interests and the cool kind of decks that I'm running, as well as a lot of cool options across the board. But for my number 1, I took a completely different route to decide on this pack, and it comes from my sense of nostalgia and my sense of excitement for the game of Netrunner. Because at my heart, what I really love about the game is the flavor and the theme. And for me, I got into the game right around Honor and Profit. I was doing this data pack thing. I was buying these data packs. I was like, oh, there's cool cards. Like, I can see how they're like building out the flavor of the world. And then the Sand cycle was announced, and I was like, oh, this is cool. Like, this is a whole like different universe flavor thing. And what I think they knocked out of the park with the Sand cycle was the thematic consistency between all the packs. It
Absolutely.
was unbelievable how they managed to capture the sense of place, and that the packs really fit together from a thematic standpoint. And to me, nothing epitomizes that like the transcendent nature of Breaker Bay. For me, this pack stands out as one of the top packs for just thematic consistency and a bunch of awesome cards that are still relevant to this day. Breaker Bay has got some sweet cards on both sides for almost every faction, and I think it's well worth a pickup for several reasons. So as far as runners, I think they're pretty much all winners here. There are 1 or 2 duds, but on the whole, like, you really can't go wrong. Anarch-wise, Hacktivist Meeting, I think right now is the best Anarch current by a wide margin. This thing is seen a 3 of in basically every Anarch deck I've built in the last couple months. It's phenomenally useful and high impact and really cheap. I love it. Off-Campus Apartment, I think, is a really cool card for a specific type of deck. If you've got a lot of cool connections, you're just powering away at those connections, of which there are several in the core set. This is a really sweet card. And then I think one of the best cards in the pack, it looks pretty innocent, but Career Fair, I think, defines criminals in a lot of ways. Like, these days, it's a criminal card that makes a huge impact within the faction and outside the faction. I think it's just super phenomenal. And if you like criminal at all,
I had this shortlisted because of this card.
Yeah, Career Fair is like the card for so many reasons. And then I just, like, if you're a Shaper, man, you just look at these Shaper cards. You get 6 Shaper cards, including an ID that was the ID of this last year's Worlds, Haley Kaplan, which I think, again, is a great flavor win and is a phenomenally good Shaper ability that really stands out as being that powering through your installing of cards, getting this crazy, whatever your game plan is, set up quickly. She just does it, and she's really good at it. The rest of the Shaper cards here fill out different niches. I think the Game Day plus Beach Party combo is really funny, and there are decks that like that. the standout cards, I think, really, apart from the ID, are Comet and Study Guide. I think these cards are not going to be in every shaper deck, but the ones that they're in, they make a big difference. On the Corp side, I think it's sort of 50-50 here, but the ones that are great are continue to be great. The suite of Turing, Crick, Gutenberg, and Miramati, all of which have these positional ice effects, I think are really cool design, and by and large are still really impactful even to this day.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy to see that all in the same pack. Usually that synergy is not there. So awesome.
Yep. And then the last one I just want to give a shout out to is Breaker Bay Grid. I think this card, in the right context, in the right deck, if you've got assets that are expensive to res, your Adonis, or even Maryland Campaign, the Root, if you're feeling saucy, right?
Yeah.
There are combos there that are really, really nice. And I think Breaker Bay Grid
single-handedly changed the game.
It did, yeah, because it presented all these new economic options, and you had these HB decks that were just, going to town with free Eves and Adonises all day long.
So powerful. Lowering by
this
5
pack came out
ridiculous.
I know. Bananas, right? So for that reason alone, like corp-wise, this is also a really solid pack because every corp is getting at least 1 or 2 really sweet cards. Yep. So all in all, Breaker Bay, it was memorable when it came out, and I think it's still relevant to this day. So that's my number 1 pick.
I guess I'd like to give a shout out to one of my unsung cards. I always have liked Blacklist.
In
the age of recursion back in the day when this came out, this card, put behind a piece or two of good ice was stopping a lot of trick plays. And there's, you used to be able to read game reports, and if I remember correctly, I think even my buddy Sky, who's sitting in the chat here, he's done some crazy things with being able to lock out people with Blacklist. So that's a great addition, cherry on the top for this pack.
Super solid.
I would say that Breaker Bay Grid is the original value town.
So nice.
See, because it's like a place. Man. Okay.
Yeah, it's really good. Well done.
All right. Well, I'm going to change my top choice from Escalation.
Good.
You gotta get the variety in
Mix
there.
it up. Hey,
and there's so many good choices too.
I respect that. Yeah, of course.
So pre Most Wanted List 2.0, I would have said, what is this thing called? Blood Money.
Oh,
but
of course.
I don't like recommending packs that have 2 banned cards out of the 20 in them. It just feels bad,
I agree.
So my top choice, just recap, I picked Terminal Directive as my big box. Earth Scion was my second pick. And we're going to complement that with Crimson Dust as my number 1 pick. And it's the most recent data pack. So I think there's even some hidden gems in here that haven't quite been fully explored.
Yeah.
Yeah, just again to interject, even if people that were following the chat, this is the one I think when Spags jumped in right away. He was like, Crimson Dust is a great one of pack to throw into a collection.
Yeah, particularly for the corporation side, which if I had to pick between the two, I think I like playing corps more than I do runners. So call me the bad guy. But also, I just said, I don't like picking a pack that has 2 banned cards. Crimson Dust has 1 banned card, so it's not like a whole lot better, but I'll take what I can get. Yeah. So on the runner side, you're getting a lot of kind of these niche pieces or toolbox cards, but then there's 3 that I want to talk about that are particularly useful. And the first card in the pack is Mining Accident. Since Account Siphon has been removed from the game through the revised core, there's not a lot of economy denial stuff that runners can do aside from maybe like criminal derez effects. mining accident's probably the best denial tool that runners have right now. And it's, again, one of those really fun cards to play with because you're giving your opponent a choice, kind of like Steve Cambridge, if you will. You got a real Sophie's choice here. You got to pay up to 5 credits or take a bad pub. So, and there's a joke about how I'm on Bad Publicity talking about it, but I don't know what that joke.
Heyo. Nice.
Also, if you're a new player, there you go. Check it off the list. Invited back. All right.
Bingo.
If you're a new player and you've ever heard I'm sure you've heard some slang and you're like, I don't know what that is. What are they talking about with the MCA and the PPO and what is this? You might have heard of a card referred to as the Turtle. Well, the Turtle is in this data pack. It's there. I've heard 3 pronunciations. I say Aumakua, 5 syllables, because I think that sounds the most Hawaiian, I guess. I think most people just say Aumakua, or sorry, most people say Amakua. I've also heard Amakwa, like 3 syllables. But anyway, it's the Turtle, and that's how you don't have to say the actual name. But it's probably the best AI breaker that's out there. There's cool counterplay. If you follow Alec's suggestion, pick up Order and Chaos, then you get your Cyberdex Virus Suite, so you can get rid of the Turtle counters. And then the other card that I think is actually pretty cool is Corporate Defector. Whenever the Corp clicks to draw, they reveal that card.
Nice.
And that works really well with all the other Anarch tools that ditch cards out of their hand. We mentioned Alice earlier. We mentioned what's the cool art, Chris, with the Wanton Destruction. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So Corporate Defector is pretty cool. But we got to talk about the Corp side of this pack because all the Corps win huge with Crimson Dust. CFC Excavation Contract. Every new player wants to build an all Boyroids deck, and this is the agenda to put in that deck.
Well, Stronger Together is the new core set ID, right?
Yeah.
So there you go. You got Boyroids. Make some money.
Stronger Together, also with this agenda, richer together. So good.
Sure.
MCA Austerity Policy, I'm going to make a claim, is the new San City Grid. It is the fast advance tool that other factions want to import. I love it in CTM. The German Und Nutzen deck uses MCA and CTM. You've got, obviously, HB is going to use it. I've seen it in Wayland. I've seen it in Jinteki. Like, how else are you going to screw out these 5-for-3s, man?
Yeah.
So, MCA is a really great tempo card. You get Restore, which is like a more click-efficient version of Archive Memories without being as broken as Friends on High Places. You got Breach Dome, which is best friends with
good.
Potential Unleashed. You also love it in PE. You can throw it in your Polana if you really want to, throw people back. You got Sandstorm, which is I actually think is a great card. We don't see it a lot because it's kind of redundant with Ag Infusion's ability. But if you want to build a deck like Ag Infusion, but not an Ag Infusion, Sandstorm is like Ag Infusion in an ice form. So AR Enhanced Security is probably one of the strongest agendas we've seen in a while. Maybe one of the strongest 3-1s since like House of Knives. It's crazy good. It lets you do all kinds of asset shenanigans. Priority Construction, Alec.
Man, that card came out of nowhere and has been freaking phenomenal. I can't tell you the number of times where I priority construct a Mausolus onto a remote, slap an Atlas in there and go like, come at me, bro. I'm ready to roll. Priority construction. Nailed it. It's a great card.
It's so good. It's so good. Is it an Orion? Is it going to be a Hortum? Could be a Wormhole. Maybe it doesn't even do anything yet. We don't know.
Yeah.
And Fractal Threat Matrix is a Wayland-style defensive upgrade that people haven't been using that much yet, but is really good. It's really good with Breaker Bay Grid, actually. So
combo.
Think of that.
Nice.
And then Conundrum. You gotta love Conundrum because it's evolved Enigma. Yeah. So they're good pack.
Why not?
Well, Red Sands definitely it ended on a good note. I mean, I don't really have anything else to add in there. I think you pretty much ran the gambit from top down. So I think that I mean that's all to say about that one.
Nice.
some weird ones that I just want to let you guys know on things that I was kind of thinking about, that I would have liked, maybe if I could pull some cards and sneak them in, or borrow cards from friends or stuff like that, ones to kind of watch out for. If my runner side was a little more heavier, I know I had Anarch options in there, but I used to like Smoke with stealth. So that's something to kind of look out for. She's kind of cool for new players, because I think that once you get set up, she kind of does what she needs to do with the stealth credits and the reoccurring credits. So I think she's a little easier to get into for new players, other than trying to dive into some of what the combos that these Haleys kind of pull off. My other one to kind of look out for would have been, that was on the cutting room floor, is Liberated Mind.
Really?
Two cards stand out in there for me, which is the Turning Wheel. I think that's really
Nice.
getting that multi-access build-up is really kind of a crucial card going forward. And also Rebirth. Guys, don't forget about what Rebirth can do. So that's going to be one that you might want to just kind of pick up on the side, like later on, after you've kind of learned this game, after you've gone through all of these packs that we've talked about, or whoever has kind of given you the best breakdown that fits your play style. So look at Rebirth, because what you can do there from that surprise factor of switching your ID is just really crazy.
Yeah.
So those
Do you guys remember when Rebirth was spoiled and everyone was like, "What? What is this card? How can you? It's so over the top. How is that not broken?" Like, and it turns out it's like, it's fun. It's cool.
In the right deck, it's good. Yeah.
No
Yeah.
doubt.
Nice.
So those are my kind of like cutting room floor adventures.
Yeah. Alec, was there anything that was on the cusp for you?
Yeah. So the way I came up with this list is sort of going through all the packs and kind of counting out just like how many cards in each pack I consider to be memorable or notable or whatever else. And the two packs that you actually alluded to earlier when you were talking about Geist, that if you like that style, actually have some really phenomenal cards across the board, is a combination of the Underway and Business First. So getting those two packs together, you get a huge amount of value. You get both Armand Geist Walker and Tech Trader between the two packs. In the Underway, other standouts include Street Peddler, which is phenomenal, Drive-By, which is phenomenal, Chameleon, which is super cool, and Marcus Batty on the Corp side, which I think is an extremely relevant runner card and introduces you to cool side games. On the Corp side, two of the most useful cards these days, Disposable HQ, I think, is pretty underrated, and I've been finding it really useful in my decks, particularly to squirrel away those agendas. And then speaking of agendas, one of the most solid 2-pointers in the game, you just slot it in any deck and you're feeling good, is Corporate Sales Team out of Business First Air.
Yeah.
Ooh, it's just like reliable money.
You youngins, I've been disposable and HQing for the last year now. Come on.
Oh my gosh.
Where have you
You're
been?
so cool, Chris.
I know.
Nice. Yeah. Welcome to the party.
My problem is I'm too far ahead in the game. Now,
that's
like,
right.
By the time people catch up, I'm already on to the next thing. Right?
This is the bleeding edge. Bleeding
Nice.
edge.
He's a Netrunner hipster.
Yeah.
Nice.
I want to bring up something. Oh, so my cutting room floor real quick was Blood Money, like I mentioned, because you still get Beth Kilrain Chang and Paperclip out of that.
Yeah, paper.
So good.
Yeah.
Which are
It was really hard to
good.
not mention that one as well. But
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But most of the rest of the runner cards are either hot garbage or banned. So that's why I didn't bring it up. And then on the Corp side, you get Special Report, which is a great flood tool and draw
Super
tool.
good. Super good.
And then some other, you get Aiki, and Fairchild 2, which are both great code gates. So,
Love it.
And Pricek, which is a great Wayland card that's actually neutral. So,
yeah. Nice.
But I wanted to ask you guys a question.
Sure.
Oftentimes, when people don't know what to recommend to new people, they say, pick up the deluxe boxes. Creation and control is the best. And they say that because specifically for the runner side, it has the holy trifecta of neutral cards. Same old thing, Datacast, Dirty Laundry. Plus it enables you to build like functioning modern shaper decks because it has same old thing, or not same old thing, self-modifying code, and then admin, clone chip, all these other great.
It has been replaced on my list. It was one of my top picks back in the day for sure.
Yeah. I'm going to be counter to that and say that I don't think creation and control is a good pickup for your money, with the exception of like self-modifying code is really good. But aside from that one card out of the whole box, I actually don't think it's that great because I think there are serviceable runner economy cards. Bear with me. So, serviceable runner economy cards that are not as good or as universally applicable as Dirty Laundry Daily Cast. But more importantly, if you have looked at the HB side of that box, it is a dumpster fire of cards. It is so bad. It is unfortunately bad. And they will have to do lots of, like super powered synergistic cards for Bioroids in order to like get some of those cards up to a playable level.
Yeah.
Like Ichi 2 is good, but big. Heimdall 2 is fine, but huge. Bastion. We're getting a full bleed Bastion because there's one of that in Wolfie's CI deck.
Nice.
But what else is there? That whole, you get Tyr's Hand, Mind Layer. Like, what is this?
Yeah, I mean the HP was always the suite of it was always pretty poor. Basically, what you were buying for back in the day was the set of runner cards. Is you were getting your full clone chips, you were getting admin, you were getting the self-modifying code, and you were getting your neutral economy. With some kind of like, depends on the style you were going and what you needed, some other one-offs like feedback filter here or there, scavenge as well, because you needed to the token cards like the dogs like Lady and
specifically Lady,
to be able to scavenge, or to be able to scavenge a femme fatale. But I think that we're kind of moving away from that, and as certain cards get so heavily put on restricted lists here, I almost wanted to recommend this box over the other box, going with my head over my heart kind of thing. Because of that same old thing, Daily Cast, Dirty Laundry. But what I couldn't do it was the IDs that is holding you back for a new player. A lot of the cool things that you want to do as a new player is see different styles and try new things, and it's the ID that makes the deck a different experience. So what you're getting here is a lot of either poor or too complex for a new player. If I look at the runner side of things, Exile is just not a good ID to play. Kit is probably the best ID. So out of 6, you're getting, I think, one good one. Professor again is too hard. He's very niche. There's people that can play him and they can do it well, but a new player really should not be like trying to make something happen with the Professor.
Plus, he only gets better as your card pool grows, because then you have more options for programs. Yeah. So
I think they've been saying that since he's come out.
One day.
Custom Biotics was just kind of, again, blah. Next Design, you would think that that's going to be really good for a new player because you're getting that initial bonus of starting with 3 ice out. But the problem is that as a new player, if you whiff, you're not going to be able to play out of that hole that now you've created for us, since you've pretty much turned off your ID ability and handicapped yourselves because of the lower influence cost. That is, when that ID came out, I tried so hard to make this thing work, but the 12 influence really handicapped it. So, and then CI, you saw CI can win worlds, but CI also has a learning curve that you're not going to be able to just buy this box and play to the same style that you have just seen players play to. So I unfortunately I can't, like you said, I can't recommend a new player coming to this box anymore.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Wow, I thought it was going to be kind of controversial, but I got some backup on that. All right.
No, I mean, great points, because that used to be the one to go to.
Yeah.
Yep. And it's always kind of baffled me for exactly the reason that you guys bring up, like kind of lackluster IDs, and the HB side of the box is really hit or miss. Despite this box having my favorite single card in the entire game of Netrunner being Escher. Which
I thought you were going to say Cerebral.
Freaking love. No.
That's good too.
Escher to me is like the ultimate cool Netrunner card that I never play and I never see play, but I think is phenomenal. But yeah, apart from what we've discussed, like there's not much else there, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So that's basically the rundown, I think, from top to bottom. Unless you guys want anything to add there, I'm pretty good. Most of the stuff was covered from the chat, so guys, thank you for participating there and throwing your comments out. If you didn't get a chance to, throw your your recommendations down in the comments below so people can find them, correlate them to this video. Anything to last minute polls?
I would encourage players who are newer to the game to feel welcome to come to either the Facebook group or the Reddit. Those are probably two of the most active online communities. And say hi, say what's interesting to you about the game, and you can ask people for their opinions about your specific interests. Like if you've got one ID or one faction that you really love that maybe we didn't focus as much on, go ahead and ask people what they recommend, and they can point you in the right direction, and that can be a great place to start as well.
Yep. If you are not on the live stream and you're watching this in retrospect, then my buying guide, which is up on Board Game Geek, is in the description, so be sure to check that out. It's printed up like it's formatted like a threefold pamphlet. So if you are maybe a manager at a friendly local game store and you're trying to help new players with their purchases, just print it out and give it to them. And the guys that I've done that with, they've really enjoyed it. I've also got an intro to deck building pamphlet that's up on Board Game Geek, and so check those out. And then while I'm here, I got to give my plug for my podcast, Shipment from Shiloh. You can find it on iTunes or at shipmentfromshiloh.podomatic.com, and that's Shiloh with a C, Chilo.
Nice.
Awesome. Graham, again, thank you very much for the contributions, there you go, to the community. Putting these buying guides together. It's overwhelming to look at a game like this, the card pool that's there, and get somebody new into it, or try and convince a friend to buy into this, which is pretty much a could potentially be a monthly down payment on a car here. Or
depends on how many LCGs you're into, man. But.
Yeah, true.
So it's kind of unfeasible to grab everything at the start, unless you are lucky enough to kind of pick up someone who has kind of selling it secondhand. But but you know what, Chris, I really enjoyed buying the packs one at a time, because
at first I was just buying a random pack like you would a booster pack and be like, cool cards. And then I said, oh, I really want an Anarch ID. And so then I would shop around for specific packs. And then I'd say, oh man, I really want this and I really want this. And so then I made my little shopping queue. And my friends joke with me because they're like, Graham, what pack was Lady in? And I'll be like, oh yeah, that was All That Remains, right? That was like the 5th pack of the Lunar Cycle. And they're like, Graham, how do you know that off the top of your head? Well,
yeah,
because I bought them one at a time, man. So
yeah, and it's nice too because it kind of like a new player is at the point in the game right now where they can like decide what you want to play. There's really enough content out there now that you can very well match a play style. And you can pick and choose. I mean, all of the lists they're not spoiled now, but they're all well documented out there on various sites. You can see what card you need to complete it and just go out and buy that pack. You're not opening a pack or chasing, the new pack fever, right? That will come as we move on into the new cycles. I'm sure all these people will get caught up and buy blindly the next data packs that come out, but you don't feel like you need everything right from the start.
You do not.
Yeah, absolutely.
Again, so thank you, Graham. Appreciate that. Keep doing what
Thanks,
you're
guys.
doing. And guys, we will probably go into a break next week because of American Thanksgiving. There's a couple of Americans on the show that like to give thanks at this time of year, so we'll give them their days.
Thanks, man.
The day after that, if you are a new player in America, maybe there's a Black Friday sale at one of your local game shops, and you'll be able to pick up some of this recommended purchase material then. So that's there it goes, the tie-in for this time of year.
Hey, got there.
Thank you very much for sticking with us here and listening to this little end rant. That's probably gone far too long. We will catch you guys next time, and Graham will be somewhere in your eardrums as you download his casts. Thanks, guys. We are out.
See ya.
See ya.